But I also don't want to waste all your lunch time. There will still be more coming. So I want to give a quick overview of the Tumbleweed integration process, and make a small detour also to lead, where the process is actually still being built up, so that's not all clear yet. For the people that don't know me yet, and my name is Tumbleweed. I have been with SUSE since last year in October formally, but I've been in the openSUSE project for roughly 10 years, so basically since the project started I've been a community member. And since October now I'm doing this actually as my full-time job, and still as a hobby as well, so the days are still longer. The agenda will be actually pretty short. It's really just the integration process, so what will happen, you'll see all the bubbles. In short, it's you branch it, you submit, you get a factory, and then you get a tumbleweed. We'll get to the name confusion as well. And at the end, I will do a small difference on how it will lead, which is this sleeve-based openSUSE and tumbleweed-based openSUSE, just to see where we are different, how does it all get together, and where are still shortcomings. There are still a lot of things that are actually not clear yet. The integration process, Tumbleweed. I'm sure some of you have already seen this picture. It's published on the wiki. It's all very easy. We have a submission coming in. We do some testing, integration testing. Does it all work together? Does it break? Okay, does it better? Does it look better? Then we throw it into the factory, which is on the build service, the project openSUSE factory. We will never rename that due to too many scripts just referencing to it, and the name is still fine. It's basically the thing that molds the whole thing into a product in the end. It's passed on to QA, not to this. Well, he is looking at it as well, but it's mostly OpenQA. And then we release it as a product called Tumbleweed. Now, to have a look at all those small bubbles, what this actually means. The submission. This starts from the point where you actually branch a package, you fix it, you make an update, you submit it back to the dev project, you have a first review from the development /project/ package maintainer. It can be easier. In some cases, nobody feels responsible. That's especially on big collective projects where we have like 20 maintainers, but nobody thinks that this very package is now in his responsibility. There, generally, it's just helpful to ask people again, step in, use the comment field on OBS. That helps most of the time. Once the package is in the dev project, it has to be forwarded to openSUSE factory. This is a task that can be done by anybody. You do not require special privileges. If you see some changes in a dev project that makes sense, you can actually just go on the web UI and click submit package, or use the standard OSC submit request. This will work as well. The only thing that will happen if a non-maintainer is submitting it, the review is being added for a maintainer. So there is still an approval step coming that people that know this package or supposedly know and maintain the package will have to agree that this is really ready for inclusion now. There is a task running, the factory auto-submit. Some of you like it, some hate it. It's basically crawling the dev projects and tries to find packages that have been lying there for 2 weeks without being submitted to factory. If there's nothing pending and the thing is there, it creates a submit request for you. There's an opt-out method, so you do not have to have it if you don't like it. Especially larger projects like OpenQA, they are well aware that they have to submit themselves, and they usually disable that. That's done using attributes on the project directly in OBS. So you have an OBS auto-submit attribute, which you can disable. Review phase. That can be a lengthy phase. We have packages hanging around in some review phase for a week, let's say. Some automated reviews can go even longer if something is wrong. And generally, it's a package that's being submitted gets an automatic review added by factory auto. That's a script. factory staging, that's the staging master currently done by Max in Taipei. That's just grouping the things together that go together to have the integration tests smoothly later. And legal auto, another script that's just checking that licenses are not changed. So as long as you have a package and the license doesn't change, legal auto will always pass it through, with some exceptions, but the norm is it goes through. If you change the license tag, legal auto will ask the legal team for a manual review on that. Factory auto, that's a pretty big one doing stuff, so it actually takes the sources, it tries to run the source service download, so actually it tries to verify if the files that referenced are the ones you claim them to be. So if you have a source URL going to a website, it will download the tarball, verify that this is the same result, and if not, it will decline. Here it has some basic checks like, is there a changelog entry? If not, it will just decline it again. Yeah, it's mostly the source validator that's happening there. Those three will have a small look a bit closer, especially the pre-integration testing. So once factory auto passed the syntactical test and everything, it will actually add additional reviewers, one being the factory repo checker. I'll come to that a bit later. And it will also add a reviewer to the factory review group, which is a team of 6-7 people at the moment still in the team, which should do a manual review of all the changes. Do we see something strange? Are all the things in line? Do you have static libraries packaged? If so, is the packaging guideline at least adhered to? Generally, we don't want static libs, but if they have to be there, they have to be packaged in a special way. That's something the review team is taking care of. The factory repo checker, that's a rather complex script, so it will always try to see after this package has been submitted, is it still installable? So are all dependencies ready for that? Does it create new build cycles? So will it increase the time on how long it takes to build factory? Something we try to avoid wherever possible. Not always possible, but very often you can split spec files in 2-3 parts and build in the documentation part, for example, separately, and to reduce all those cycles. Then we have stagings. That's just a split in 2 parts. So we have the full stagings and we have an ad interim staging. Full staging, we'll see certainly more of that as well. You get a group of things together, full DVD sets are built. This goes to OpenQA for pre-evaluation if that breaks stuff. Full staging is done for everything which is part of the core set or on the DVD. So if we don't ship on the DVD, we consider the package less important. Some small games, if they don't really work or there's no test run for it anyway, might always happen there. We trust that the maintainers actually do submit stuff that works and they test it themselves. Most of the times, that's actually also done. The ad interim stagings, that's really just taking your submission, putting it in a project, building it, and seeing if that actually really builds. In some cases, we have seen that some Devil projects are very inventive on how you can avoid build failures. So that goes from changing all kinds of project configuration until their package builds in their Devil project, but there's no chance to build it in factory again. A typical thing is debug infos disabling. We have them enabled per default in factory, and we want to keep that on. Other things is you have all the build dependencies listed in your Devil project, but they have never been submitted to factory. The repo checker can only check the install of a package and not the build dependencies, so we happen to get packages which couldn't be built because dependencies are missing. So with ad interim, we can catch those now earlier. If it doesn't build there, we will decline it before. Get the feedback why it's declined, of course, or we'll just wait. Make sure that all the missing parts are getting in, and then that interim stagings are also acceptable. Once we have the stagings ready for accept, then that's typically in the morning or whenever I see something ready, Then I'm having the pleasure of doing a check-in round. I try to make the rounds as rare as possible, and I try to group them in big parts. So if I have 3-4 stagings together, they'll just go in. And that's usually what happens to the OBS after a check-in. So we go from an idle system to a system that has like 50,000 jobs queued up, which usually takes like a day or two to actually get back down. There was actually a quiet period, there were no check-ins. That's when snapshotting is done on the system. There are some other stuff happening. So I am the one keeping OBS busy a lot. Then once this is in the factory, we go over to OpenQA. So factory built all the images, we have an FTP tree created, we have ISOs created, live images, rescue CDs, product 3Ds. This is all being handed over to OpenQA. In Tumbleweed, we currently run 180 tests, or test suites, of which some are known to be broken, which we accept. That's at the moment, for example, the live CDs are in a not very good shape. We accept that they are not the most important part, not so many people use them really. We have updates from openSUSE 12.3, which we're still testing. That currently doesn't work due to conflicts. We accept those as broken, so we currently see like 17 tests are acceptable broken. That's managed in a list. So even if they're broken, the release will go out. If OpenQA finds anything special that's not working, it will simply not release that. So there's another script, the to-test manager. It will go through the list. If there are broken tests, it will simply refuse to release that. If we want to override that, we have to mark a test as known broken. Then it's fine again. Or generally, we'll try to fix it. That's more in line with what we're doing. There are some tests that have random failures. So sometimes we're just fighting with OpenQA itself. OpenQA being overloaded, there are 8 runners, workers at the same time. Sometimes we run out of memory. Our tests fail, but in general they will be fine. So I'll rerun them and try to get to something that might still be releasing. Not all of the snapshots which you see on this list have been released. So there are some more. We are trying to get the release out every day. That's the goal. There have been periods where we did that for roughly 2 weeks constantly. For 14 days there has been a release every day, including weekends. There have been times where we didn't have a release for 3 weeks. So we're trying to get to 1 day, or at least by every second day. Sometimes it just doesn't work. The 3 weeks was, for example, when we checked in GCC 5 as the new default compiler. We had to rebootstrap the entire distribution, rebuild everything, so OBS was busy for a big part there. Full rebuild took like 72 hours. Testing, there were still API incompatibilities, finding all those. So that's when we had about 3 weeks without the release. And once OpenQA is ready, we give this all over to the user. Happy users, hopefully, most of the times. As usual, they will always find more bugs. That's where the openSUSE factory mailing list is really helpful. There's always a big discussion. Has somebody else seen that? Is there something broken on my system only? When people start to get to the conclusion that something more generic, they file a bug report, and then the whole thing starts with fixing the light. So that's the wave, the whole thing. Now, I promised to also talk a bit about the names we use. We have openSUSE Factory, we call it openSUSE Tumbleweed. Tumbleweed, most of you probably know, used to be a project initiated by Greg, which was the stable openSUSE release 13.2 with additional packages and overlay on top of that, which was called a rolling release, which it was not completely. Then with all the OpenQA, the forward factory which we released as our development snapshot became actually good enough to be usable. So we had much less breakages than we had like 2 years ago, for example, where every update was hope and pray that it will actually work, and you were always ready having a DVD next to it to recover it. So the name was legacy inherited from Greg, just to honor him as well. the project itself is completely different maintained. It is the same as it was to be factory, so there's actually no difference. Factory is Tumbleweed. Simple as that. On my slides, we use it for two parts. Factory is the entire building and the process around it, and Tumbleweed is what we release finally to the user. So you cannot download Factory, you can only download Tumbleweed. To make the confusion complete, we have a project called openSUSE Tumbleweed, which we offer for people to build against, which in the end is nothing more than actually linked to openSUSE Factory/snapshot. So it is still the same, even if there is an additional project in OBS, it is just an alias. That's a good one to know, and there's always a bit of confusion on mailing lists, people believing that they know how it is set up, but it is really the same product. Making good time. openSUSE Leap. Who knows of Leap already here? Okay, I'm done. Everybody knows it. So you know the basic. We're trying to make the openSUSE release no longer just a random snapshot in time of Factory/Tumbleweed, but we want to increase stability there. So the idea is we now use SLE as the base system as far as possible. And we have contemporary other things on top of that, like GNOME, for example, was decided to still ship 3.16, which was released this year, instead of 3.10, which is in SLE, which is like 2 years old by now, just to stay a little bit contemporary. But this, of course, brings its own issues, like GNOME is known that if you want a new GNOME, you should have some underlying technology as well up to date. Like an X stack or a kernel might be really beneficial to have the graphic drivers actually in a good shape. So Leap is trying to find the balance, how much SLE versus how much Tumbleweed to integrate in there. And currently we are around at 1,200 packages SLE versus 5,000 packages Tumbleweed.
How many SLE packages do we have replaced?
Well, SLE is about 2,300 packages, so
it's about half of
yeah.
the stuff we actually use from SLE.
Minus there are a couple of SLE packages which are just not integrated at all. So it's not entirely half, so we're probably around 60 to 70% of SLE packages which we try to keep in there. So most notably replaced currently is actually the X stack, which we needed to update to 1.17. The kernel, which has been updated to the 4.1 series. And most of the rest, which and GNOME of course, so that's GLE to GTK3, which are part of SLE as well, but had to be updated of course. Can't run an old GTK with a new GNOME. For KDE, Qt is also part of SLE. But for the integration of KDE Framework 5, of course, also those libraries had to be updated. So it's generally some libraries. Most of the times we try to do this with libraries which we know they have some API compatibility. So things like Poplar we try to not update because they promise it, but they don't really do it all the time. The Leap setup, or the openSUSE 42, as it's actually called in the build service, is in fact just an inheritance of other projects. So if you check openSUSE 42, it's mostly an empty project. I think currently there's actually 42 packages in there. It's a nice coincidence. Everything else is inherited. So it's split out in openSUSE 42 factory copies. So we can always identify where a package comes from. And also if there are updates, we know in which channel to look for more updates to come. Because what we did over the last week, we tried to integrate SP1, for example, of SLE 12. So it was really beneficial to know what packages are actually SLE packages, so we can just query the update channels then. And that's all done using project linking in OBS. Very helpful to do it, sometimes a bit confusing in the UI. You see things which are not there, or you try to find things which should be there, but they're just inherited. You have to get your head around the setup. The submissions. We use basically the same. Everybody can submit anything. We try to guide people to check if a package is in SLE. As said, we did not just copy the entire SLE base down, so there is stuff in SLE which we don't have. If you miss something, check if it's in SLE. If it's there and is still suitable nowadays for LEAP, sometimes there are reasons not to, generally it should be fine. We submit it from LEAP, just create a submit request. If it's not there, it should be submitted from factory. Sometimes factory packages have been moved way too far ahead already, or what will happen soon, for example, Tumbleweed will jump to GNOME 3.18, that's going to happen somewhere in October. LEAP will stay on 3.16 because we simply do not have the time to integrate that before we want to actually release that properly. So in this case, the submission from any other place is acceptable. So there are no Devil project defined as we have for factory. Stuff can come from anywhere, which is a bit a risk, so we have to read. That's my job and the kudos to actually make sure that the things we take still make sense.
Aren't we going to have to build projects for LEAP?
That's an interest. I'm not sure that makes sense because then we try to have the factory, and once you want to step out, you have always those Devil changes to do. For GNOME, we will do it like this. We'll just use the GNOME stable 3.16 as the informal Devil project. But I'm not sure if it's planned to define the Devil package and so on. Then a big risk, review phase. There's no manual review happening. We have the entire staging reviews, all those tasks are running, but there's generally no human review happening. So if you submit something and it builds and it doesn't break stuff, it might just go in. So I'm of course going through the list of what I'm trying to accept, and if stuff comes from factory, then I know, okay, the packaging policies are adhered to. Otherwise the package shouldn't be in factory in the first place. And the other things I will do courtesy check myself, but it's not enforced at this moment by OBS, and there's also nothing actually that's putting them on. That's certainly something we'll still have to extend in the future. But originally it was actually asset planned to only get SLE and factory packages. The fact that we got packages on different channels that came later. And of course reviews started to be more an important topic. For integration testing, there's nothing different to what we do on Tumbleweed. We have staging projects, we have ad interim stagings. It's just smaller. We only run 3 staging projects for LEAP, where we have 10 on factory because the submission amount is smaller. Stuff comes typically from channels where it's pre-tested already, be it SLE, be it factory. We generally have some idea already on the quality of the packages coming in, so you can work with much smaller number there. But otherwise, no difference. Passing it on to OpenQA, also no difference, except the number of tests is much lower. We currently only run 20 test suits, whereas on some days we had 0 success. That was actually an error in the signing, so all the DVDs had content that was not properly signed, and the installer of course refuses to start, rightly so. But generally we're at around 14 successful and 6 failures at the beginning of the week. We're currently just trying to improve that again. Some of the failures are simply tests that have not been properly adapted to LEAP. One of them, for example, tries to run on a live image, which is not being produced for LEAP, and in the end, of course, you can't really do a test. There's certainly also the goal still to get more of the tests from Tumbleweed run on LEAP to make sure that we have a much better coverage there. It's always a bit competing who gets the resources on OpenQA, so we have 8 workers. The full test suite of Tumbleweed runs for roughly 10 to 12 hours until we have the snapshot tested. So if we get the whole thing on LEAP as well, then we are busy for 24 hours and don't have time left for staging tests. Have to find a balance there or more workers. That's actually all really it from the processes. As I said, it's nothing complicated. There's a lot of scripts happening, but otherwise, nothing special. Do you have any questions which I can answer?
From which branch of SLE 12 do you pick the packages?
Currently, we are trying to get everything from Sleep 12 SP1. And as soon as there will be an SP1 update channel available, we'll start getting from there.
But they are picking only the sources, so the product doesn't matter because they use it from the...
Yeah, we rebuild all the packages.
So that means that you give basically the packages from SP1 or what will become SP1 some additional test coverage which you might not have.
Right.
Otherwise.
You are not picking from C12GA or C12 update or...
Well, the setup in SLE for OBS collection, you have SLE 12 SP1 update, which is with SLE 12 SP1, which goes up the chain. So the update channel, if you look in OBS, you actually get the whole chain. So we take whatever is available in the newest channel. We started with GA, but there's something happening up in the update channel. We'll update it. If it goes to SP1, we'll update it again.
Yeah, I was not so sure that it's set up this way for C12.
When this package comes from factory and if the factory package updated, then what happens?
At the moment, there is nothing happening automatically. We are currently debating if we should get enough packages from factory, should it be resynced to factory. There is a risk, of course, that it might be a good idea or it might not. Like when I put GNOME 3.18 in there, it's certainly a bad idea to try to push this forward to lead. So there at the moment we rely fully on the maintainers of the packages to see it's been checked out to factory now. I would like this also to have a lead and create a submit request again. So the kernel at the moment is stuck a little bit behind, so in factory / Tumbleweed they're at 4.15 already, and lead is at the moment still on 4.13 as an example.
Well, the graphical thing is that's something in the future. A package might be a branch for to different versions.
Right.
To the factory and leave. So the decision is superior. So that depends on the maintenance work.
Exactly. As said for GNOME, for example, at the moment we pull from factory. So I'm using GNOME as an example because I'm GNOME maintainer for the last couple of years, so I know that process very well as well. So for GNOME we pull currently from factory because we're on 3.16, but we have our Devil project set up that we have GNOME factory, which is the Devil branch. We have GNOME Next, which is currently staging all the 3.17, 3.18 packages. And we have a GNOME Stable 3.16, which is currently basically a copy of GNOME Factory, just interlocked at 3.16. Once Factory jumps up to 3.18, we'll just use the 3.16 branch. And as we don't have a Devil project defined in Leaf, there's also no change Devils to create. You can just submit it. Other questions? Comments?
Is there some, or what is the most simple way to see which packages are coming from where? So is there some kind of dashboard or something where I could see this package is coming from SLE, it's in lead, but there is a newer version in factory, or this package is coming from factory, but it needs an update from a newer version which already is in factory? Is there some simple way to see this, the relation, or do I have to check?
There is a dashboard work in progress. I'm just checking if I can reach it. Since my internet doesn't really.
As you are picking from 3 projects, just OCLS on the SLE12 picks, project should be sufficient.
Yes, so in OBS in the project, if you're interested in one package only, that's rather simple. You go to openSUSE 42, check the inherited packages, find your package, and then you see where it's inherited from. It can be SLE picks or factory copies. If it's directly in the 42 folder, then it means it came from any random project basically, so you couldn't assign it.
But I wouldn't see, for example, if there already is a new version in factory. Then
No. Ludwig is currently working on the dashboard that would allow that, so there's a full list, which version do we have in SLE, what do we have in 42, what's in factory. So that's work in progress. We used that already to see, for example, when SP1 came out, we switched a couple packages back from factory to the SLE version to get that footprint bigger again.
Yeah.
So that's certainly something we'll do. And that dashboard will certainly help. Once this is fully functional, I'm sure we'll spread that link.
And this related question to that, is there some work going on in trying to give this information to users? Because I've seen that people are asking, what is the difference between Leap and Tumbleweed, or what should I use? So I would suppose that which versions are in there and how often they are updated and so on is some pretty important information for users. So is there a way for users to find it, or will there be? I mean, Leap is not released yet, but will there be something?
I'm sure there will be information available. It's really different target audiences. Leap is for the user that just wants a running system. If you go to any random person at home, non-techie, that wants a running system, he couldn't care less what version of packages. Then you're actually already on a techie person. If I go to my system, I have a running system, I can do this, and this task. I don't care which version of whatever is running there. And that's what Leap basically tries to get. A professional one that wants to work and doesn't really care of, is this now version XYZ? Especially when we take from SLE, very often you see, well, a bug is fixed in version 1.2.3, but we backported this to 1.2.2. Just because the version doesn't match doesn't mean the feature of the bug is still there.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm wondering what is the answer to any openSUSE user? I mean, if I'm running openSUSE 13.2 now, what should I use as the next version? I mean, should I move to Tumbleweed or should I move to Leap? It's kind of a
right. So that's
to
something
take,
that
because
marketing communication still has to be really worked out. So for me, the advice is really, if you just want your system to be functional, stable, and everything, go Leap. If you're more in the techie and you think you need to have the newest thing, and you're aware and you're able to fix once in a while, and you want to be actually part of fixing it and reporting, go down to Leap.
So to give a simple example, which we will probably be dealing with a lot of questions with Leap, like the GNOME one with GNOME 3.16. So Leap will be released after 3.18 is out. So for any GNOME user, the answer is kind of easy. If you care that Leap doesn't have 3.18, you should be a Tumbleweed user. Because that's kind of a nice clear split, but that to be true for GNOME, but it illustrates kind of the messaging that we're going to be having to make clear to users. If you don't care, you just want GNOME, 3.16 is fine.
So the question,
Will there be any further factory-based releases for openSUSE that are stable and maintained?
the message from the release team inside SUSE has been no. We did get some queries from the community that they would like to pick this up. We tried to give them information and work with them, but then they became quiet. So the work might simply be too much. The community feels really solid enough to actually do it. If somebody wants to pick this up, we will not oppose it. In the previous snapshots were basically nothing else than take a random Tumbleweed snapshot and call this 13.3, which is basically what was happening. Just the maintenance process was happening after, so there we would need buy-in from the maintenance team, of course, if that's going to happen. So,
are the only two sources for Sleep 12 SP1 and Tumbleweed? Or are you taking new packages from elsewhere? Or creating new packages?
we're not taking, we're receiving, so it's all based on submit requests. So the X stack, for example, Stefan created an own branch on OBS and he submits from there to lib 42. So that's neither the Slim nor the factory packages. Technically, they're very close to the factory packages though.
Okay, and how do you make sure that, because I thought everyone could submit it.
Yes.
How do you make sure that you actually want this package in if there is no manual review? Because I could package anything and submit it.
Right, that's where I'm actually coming in. So if stuff comes from factory, I will be less critical in looking at what's coming in than if something comes from a home repository, for example. But there's currently the manual review steps. The formal one is missing. There's an informal one that's just me going through the list and what do I currently have in the list that would be accepted when I do it.
Okay. One question from me. What was the chain decision to keep packages from CD and other backbone from the factory?
So the base decision is always Is the sleep package good enough? Does it work? Does it not conflict with anything? Let's use it, because the maintenance is for free for the openSUSE community, because we get all the updates from sleep. If not, then we'll have to see why we have to deviate. Can we fix the factory package to not have to deviate? Would it work? Otherwise, we'll switch to factory. That's about the process thinking in short.
So if in the future, for example, the community for the separate projects will be changing, so is it possible to, is this list quite elastic? Will we change in the future? For example, if some quality of code or project will change and the community just disappear or just improve, are we going to change this list?
So what is planned is basically on each service pack we try to get closer to SLE again. So that's certainly something on the to-do. There's probably not much automatism going to happen there because packages have diverged. If the quality on the community side disappears, and as I said, if the SLE package is good enough and brings feature-wise enough that you can build the rest on top, like if you need the GNOME 3.18, then we need of course the underlying things. If all those things are there, then we'll gladly switch back to the SLE version.
Please don't forget that two technical constraints. One, if they update now a package from factory because of technical needs of other packages, you cannot go back to the SLE package because that would stop working again. And you should avoid version downgrades, else migration from 42.1 to 42.2 will like version updates, version downgrades are always bad for our
do you have a plan for lifetime and release cadence and libraries and all that?
Pass this on to you.
Yeah, it's the official line is aligned with SLE. So a lot of it depends on what happens with SLE 13. So basically, the rule of thumb will be there will be a minor release of 42.x in line with each service pack. So 42.1 is basically at the same time with the same code as SLE12 SP1, SP2, SP3, etc. So the plan is to do those annually. So SLE's doing it annually, openSUSE is doing it annually. When SLE 13 comes out, openSUSE Leap 43.0 will be that version aligned with that, released at about the same time, and there won't be any more 42 releases after that. So there won't be for example, a 42.4 aligned with like a SLE12 SP4. So that's where the split will be. So there'll only be one branch of Leap, but it will basically be following the SLE release cadence. So the estimate would be 42.x would be 3 years of life, but with the same kind of expectations that users should be upgrading to the minor releases within 6 months of them being released, because that's when the SLE maintenance will start.
Other questions?
Do we have any strategy to minimize the difference between factory and Leap? Because I think at the moment already the difference is huge, right? I mean, the dreams we had that we could basically take factory and develop in factory, and these things will just work for the other work we do as well. I think that's more of a dream right now. So because it's already very divergent, but with SLES 13, I mean, we probably have a chance to come up with ways how to make sure that this doesn't diverge as quickly as it has for SLE 12. Are there any thoughts about how to make this easier for developers?
Exactly for this year openSUSE Leap. So you cannot have a slow-moving enterprise product with a lifetime of 12 or 15 years, depending on which extensions you count. On the other side, you have something like Tumbleweed, where you have always the newest one. Because if you have a new system D, you need a new G-Leap, which is incompatible on SLES whatever, so you cannot always move SLES. And that's why Leap is there. You have the solid base from the SLES, and on top you can put all the new stuff and develop and test it. For example, new Apache, new desktop, new XLM, whatever. And if that is then ready, you can also merge back to SLES. And we hope that you will get a lot of things like the desktops or Apache or servers, whatever, bind, whatever. In this way, easier get into the SLES Image Service package.
But it's a very different world if we just accept that factory is always the latest and greatest without any control and everybody can just do anything there. And so maybe it would be nice to think about ways how to maybe make factory not always the latest, greatest for everything, but maybe have a little bit more strategy.
You've got about 15,000 people you need to convince about that. You know, Tumbleweed has a pretty nice user base and growing based on that concept.
The other thing is, only look at, I'm working currently on this list over IPv6 stuff. So leap is not possible because the code base is /stable. Factory is ideal because it's fast moving and you can put in the things step by step, even if they're incompatible to /. And at some point in time, /30 is there, major tested in a Tumbleweed and you can use it for 3.13. So if you say now we would move factory slower, I have to stop. I cannot use it anymore for my expand new packages. So how should we develop and test the stuff for 3.13? We don't have only 3.12 for the next 15 years. We also have a 3.13 in development. We have a 3.14 in development at some point in time, and we need also a base for this products to develop. And starting today. So with the bootloader, for example, we are thinking today already how it should look like in 3.13. We need to get it into Tumbleweed during the next year to get it working, major, well tested, everything. And if we say we don't take it in Tumbleweed because it's too intrusive, we need to slow it down, then we have the same problem as with 3.12 compared to get a major and new features. So you need something slow moving, enterprise, you need something very fast moving, development, testing new stuff, everything, and you need something in the middle which connects these two worlds. And that's why that was the main idea for me.
What about the packages from SLEET12 that are used for Leap? If they get updated, does Leap get updated?
Yes, so we currently pull, so we have scripts running that see if there's something new coming in the update channel. We'll pull this currently into Leap. Once Leap is released, the update channels of course should be compatible. Should still be. That's why we try to keep the Sleep packages, so the update channels will actually be in sync.
So can someone from Leap add a repo from SLEET12 SP1 and get the updates from the enterprise version?
No, you cannot, for two reasons. At first, you can only access the update labels for the enterprise version if you have a registered system. You cannot register Leap as SLEET12. And the second thing are legal reasons. The SLES and SLED packages have this sleep branding, and if you access them, you're not allowed to put it on openSUSE. That's why we take the sources and we build it for openSUSE.
So
For the maintenance channel, at least, it will be the same package released just in two channels. So that's where we basically save the time after.
So if you have internal access, you can of course take the RPM out of the update channel and install it on Leap. As far as Leap has still the same package and not switch this version to factory. But legally, we are not allowed to give it to our customers then.
But the package is rebuilt in the Leap project, I mean, the same source. So you like a different vendor and stuff like that.
Yep.
I guess.
And openSUSE OBS only gets the sources for a silly maintenance update after it's been shipped to customers. So that's, yeah. Leap gets it last.
So the Leap versions for 2.1 will that be entered into the openSUSE maintenance project as a maintained product? Is that a suitable target? So the question is, how do we do security and bug fixing maintenance on Leap specifically? If there are no other openSUSE releases.
I don't. Do you understand the question?
How do we fix this? Like, we have a security issue and we fix it in SLE, whatever. We want to fix it in this release as well. Or a package that doesn't come from SLE, how do we fix it in Leap?
I guess you're going to have to put Leap 42.1 in the OpenSUSE maintenance process, and yeah, for those packages that aren't in SLE, treat it just like the old-fashioned OpenSUSE release.
More questions?
Did you get feedback? Obviously, this was done for a reason. Did you get feedback from people or companies who said, well, this is awesome, I'm going to shift everything to Leap and help you out and give you lots of money?
Money? No, sadly. But yeah, quite a few sort of small businesses, I think, like Invis Server, who are doing OpenSUSE-based like SMB server respins and stuff like that, are loving the idea of rebasing on top of Leap and using that rather than the old approach, which for them was a lot of extra maintenance because they didn't have this nice stable thing for their stuff to work on. So every 9 months, all of their packages had to be redone, retested, rebuilt on there. It's also got a lot of positive feedback from the Linux Foundation, who are doing their certifications based on OpenSUSE 13.1 at the moment, because they didn't want to rewrite all their exams for 13.2, and their idea of a slower moving regular OpenSUSE release where they can basically write it for Leap and not have to worry about tweaking it too much every year is really keen for them. So.
Do you have any numbers of Tumbleweed users?
It's about, before OSC, it was about 12,000. So the graph was incredibly steep compared to like the 2,000 of the year before.
Just still not a lot to what we used to have.
Not a lot,
still out of magnitude less.
But we've been quite aggressively shifting our focus to encourage a lot more people to use Tumbleweed if they're interested in having it as a stable volume distribution and stuff. Things like the new website actually has Tumbleweed there clearly on the front page, whereas if you look at the current website, you actually don't see anything about Tumbleweed at all.
Just wondering what a good number is. I mean, is 12,000 success, or what would be the number we are happy with? I mean, we used to have hundreds of thousands of openSUSE users, so we can't be happy with only having 10,000.
No.
That's what I'm wondering. I mean, it's a special distribution, of course, for special purposes, but it's also the question how we position it, because I mean, we say that it's not just something for freaks who break everything every day, but it's something for people who actually want to have a working system. I mean, that's for me also the most compelling point about Tumbleweed, because it actually works, although it's something done in a very quick way. So
I'll be happy when we start hitting sort of 100, 150,000.
So when will we be there?
I like the idea of 2 or 3 years as an estimate.
Okay, let's talk again in 2007.
Yeah.
Any other architectures? Not Intel. ARM and other architectures. So that we deep support other architectures like ARM and VPC and so.
Currently, it's only being built for x86-64, so there's not even a 586 build. Oh, it's just like for SLE actually, and that's probably going to stay like this. PPC is also not enabled yet. That's currently in Tumbleweed. We built PPC as primary target unit, so it's also in staging. But for Leap at the moment, there's only 64-bit Intel.
I'm asking that because if any fixes needed for the slave package, just for PPC, just for ARM, and what happens?
We had similar cases, already other bugs which they came out that only manifest in Leap on 64-bit Intel. There's no bug in it. In SLEC, because the header is not being used for anything in SLEC or whatever, there comes the question, should SLEC make a maintenance update or not? If you don't have a bug generally, well, you have a broken header but nothing sees it, you make a maintenance update. So we have such cases already, even without looking at additional architectures.
And how is it solved? Just keep a link.
It's communication basically. In that specific case, maintenance agreed to make an update because it's really just a typo in a header file. They agreed to do it in the maintenance update channel with minimal testing, so to not make their effort bigger than needed because the fix is really obvious.
I don't think we did. We might have done, but...
No, it was discussed last night and it has been agreed that it will be done.
In general, we don't do this. But we can of course fold in fixes in other updates if there are such things.
So if I get the patch at least into the SP1 channel, then I have it for Leap. If I don't get it, then I'll have to branch the package for Leap and still fix it because currently I'm stuck in building another package there. Because the header is broken.
I think we need to look at every single case because there are some cases which didn't affect CS12 today, but could affect us if we make a migration to SP1, SP2, SP3, whatever later. And
Or could affect customers building on top of SLES as well, I guess, as a possibility. There's always,
So you said that Leap will get maintenance updates from the C product channel. So will that be will that go through the maintenance, through the maintenance process, or will that just pop up in Leap and then Leap will be rebuilt?
I have no idea.
Because there's a potential conflict about doing maintenance for Leap, because then you have basically two packages, one coming from...
Yeah. I mean, how openSUSE wants to schedule those updates, I kind of leave that to the maintenance. You guys at openSUSE maintenance who know it more better than I do. They're in OBS. You can use them however you want. How it comes to scheduling and bundling whether that updates.
I mean,
yes, that isn't defined yet.
As far as I understand, 14.2.1 will be a frozen product and there will be an update channel, so it will go in some form through the openSUSE maintenance team.
Yeah, the difference is really that if it's a sleek package, you can just reuse the work done already. You don't have to rebase differently. You can really eliminate double work because it's slight differences in code bases. Okay, more questions?
Is there a process then, maybe this is based on what we were just discussing, but a process to test that update that comes from SLES doesn't break Leap because of some interdependencies that are there that don't exist in SLES?
There's no process. There's certainly something going to happen. I've seen maintenance is also looking to OpenQA, so that actually updates are passing an OpenQA test before. And I think this is certainly mandatory to be sure that this is happening. And of course, as we had in the past, we had the update test channel, which some people subscribe to, and that's more or less the current QA we have as well on all the updates. If there is nothing more, then I would like everybody to be here. Didn't expect such a big crowd first. Everybody was saying there's nobody coming. But it's good to see so many people, and I hope I could get you this topic a little bit closer.